My friends, he's 45. He takes over 100 pills a day and spends $2 million a year trying to undo the damage of 2 decades of burnout. Brian Johnson says he reversed his biological age to 18. But here's the part no one talks about. He doesn't need his money or madness to protect your body, especially from cancer. Most people are missing the basics, essential nutrients that quietly defend your cells every single day, and they're dirt cheap. So let's start with vitamin D. 70% of the population in the United States has an inadequate level of vitamin D. That means 7 out of 10 people that you know just don't have enough. Do you know what your vitamin D level is? To answer this question is actually quite simple. It's a blood test that can be ordered by your doctor, or you can even order it on your own through the same lab companies that your doctors use. Now this blood test costs less than a cell phone payment. Yet it has life-saving costs that you can't put a figure on. And these cost savings of health build with time. I find it amazing that billions are inadequate in a vitamin that the human body is supposed to be able to make with the help of the sun. Did you know that there are over 20,700 vitamin sites in the human genome that interact with the vitamin D receptor protein? Extensive evidence shows that when you lack vitamin D, you're putting yourself at risk for a harsh number of diseases that affect aging, including heart disease, cancers, diabetes, and memory issues. Now, people hesitate to use vitamin D supplements due to theoretical problems of toxicity in older studies, despite the fact that newer studies have concluded that there is no increased health risk, even if you reach levels as high as 100 nanograms per milliliter. I don't encourage people to get to those levels, but most people don't have to worry about that because they're not even hitting the minimum levels. And that is a level of 30. Now, the problem with vitamin studies is that most people have some vitamins in their body already. Nobody comes in naive, unlike drugs. So it's really hard to perform good randomized control trials because every patient is starting at a different baseline. And unlike drugs, where nobody's supposed to have any in their system, people with different baselines respond differently to taking and fulfilling their needs through supplements. So clinical trials that don't include the measurements of vitamins at baseline can lead to erroneous results in their efficacy. So how much vitamin D do you need? Well, that depends on how much vitamin D you already have. And there are lots of people who struggle to make vitamin D, whether it's because they don't lack sunshine or their physiology is not conducive to making vitamin D. However, in this study by Harvard in over 25,000 people published in 2022, it showed that regardless of your baseline level, a low daily dose of vitamin D is associated with 22% fewer cases of autoimmune diseases over 5 years. Have you heard that autoimmune diseases are on the rise too? Now, this would be a very long video if I went through each of these ingredients, but what I want to do is show you ingredients that are also not on the common radar, but are still vital to help your metabolism be optimal. Cancer isn't something you get in a day. The average cancer has been brewing for over a decade, and we don't notice it until it goes out of control. They all start as a single mutated cell. Now, how do you prevent your body from making that one mistake to turn into cancer? Of course, we need to avoid things that cause cancer, like UV radiation from the sun. But we also need to fulfill our buckets of essentials, and it starts on this list. Did you know that magnesium is critical for the conversion of vitamin D to its active steroid hormone form? Magnesium deficiency affects about 45% of people in the United States. It is currently shown that it will increase all-cause mortality for DNA repair incapacity and increases your risk of cancers, heart disease, telomere shortening, and stroke. Cardiovascular disease has remained the #1 cause of mortality since 1921. You know what it replaced? Infectious diseases. Magnesium is found in the center of a chlorophyll molecule. There is no animal with chlorophyll molecules unless it's in their stomach. Plants are predominantly the major dietary source of chlorophyll and magnesium. If you aren't eating your greens, you're not eating enough magnesium. Other sources include whole grains, nuts, and seeds. There is a whole sector of people, from carnivores to junk food eaters, that don't eat anything that I just listed. And by the way, whole grains are not the same as white flour or white rice. That's not whole grain. Refined grains are fortified with a number of vitamins and minerals, but not with magnesium. So if you have a choice between a seeded bread versus a non-seeded bread, pick the seeded one. You'll get more magnesium. And of course, pick the whole grain bread. It will have much more magnesium than that white bread. I'm sure you already know that these breads are more nutritious than your favorite version, but it doesn't taste as good. And you'll find yourself often making exceptions and allowing yourself to eat poor quality food just because you're not in the mood. In fact, I think most people eat based on their mood. I'm not in the mood to cook, so I go buy something. I'm not in the mood for, this item, so I'm going to eat that item. Are your kids ever in the mood to clean their room or clean the dishes? But what do you make them do? You still make them do their chores. So when it comes to eating food, we need to eat because it's the right thing to do regardless of our mood. We need to do it because it's good for, let's make dietary choices that put health savings into our accounts. But you can't do that unless you do some homework first and understand what you're missing. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. That's vital for your health. It's also important in maintaining the integrity of your genes or your DNA. Magnesium literally binds, it stabilizes your DNA and its structure. And when your DNA gets sick and you need to repair it, well, magnesium helps enzymes clean up your DNA and fix the DNA defects. No intake of magnesium is linked to higher total body inflammation and increases the risk of several different cancers. But you think that this list is a complete list is pretty naive. But that's what marketing wants you to believe. We are a nation with an inadequate intake of micronutrients, overfed, undernourished, and I'm only talking about this list. But I'm sure you know that just by getting this bucket list checked doesn't necessarily mean you're going to. So what are you missing? To be frank, you are likely deficient in one or more essential micronutrients on this list, unless you have spent the time and energy to do your homework and learn how to fill in your nutritional gaps. For too many people, they think complete nutrition is in a shake, maybe a protein bar or a piece of bread. Even ancient Roman bread was never intended to be a complete meal. And that's why they ate other whole foods. However, the marketing and benefits have pretended to be complete nutrition, making our bodies switch off longevity genes to switch on survival mode. Just pick your favorite supplementary nutritional shake. And I know these things, they defy all your known logic, but we want to believe that it's possible, but it really isn't. In the US, we always think our technologies, our medicines are the best and the greatest. And I agree. We are excellent in taking care of sick people. We can give sick people 9 lives. But when it comes to health and longevity, well, that's not our specialty because we are not a longevity country. Even though we have immigrants from the longevity nations, studies show that immigrants who stop living their lifestyle, they adopt the diet and the lifestyle of this country, they will shorten their lives and get diseases that are prevalent in the United States. And a big part of the problem is big food. They prey upon the ignorance in science in nutrition through marketing, convincing generations of people to doubt the wisdom of their elders. But instead, listen to science-driven nutrition of longevity supplements, protein powders. It's like me taking my car to the mechanic. And I have no idea what the mechanic is doing, but I blindly trust that they'll make my car work. And I'm sure many of you feel like that when it comes to food and nutrition. You have no idea what you're doing. It just tastes good. And you feel Okay, so it must be working until your body stops working, right? Then you realize something is wrong. Food scientists have made empty calories irresistible. I mean, they're engineering a bunch of chemicals fortified with a few essential vitamins. And we're wondering why our bodies are morphing in shape, size, and structure. We have unknowingly been poisoning our metabolism, suppressing our immunity, and it's putting us all at risk of cancer. And the argument is you're getting exposed to a bunch of other carcinogenic compounds like car exhaust, whatever you're spraying in your home. So what's a few other things like, we're surrounded by air pollution, tobacco pollution, cooking fumes, sunscreen. How do you prove that the food chemicals are actually the culprit? It's very hard to prove that. And the only way to do that is to observe a large collective group of people who have the discipline to eat unique diets. Believe it or not, they've actually done long-term studies at Harvard and at Loma Linda, observing tens of thousands of people with dietary habits. And by far, the people who eat the most whole food plants, they simply live longer and healthier lives. Yet people still deny this association that is clearly seen all around the world in longevity cultures because they want to believe that their fat diet is the right way to eat. I think it's like looking through the lens of baby formula. Baby formula was marketed as superior to breast milk, which we know is completely false, but it's complete nutrition, isn't it? Did you hear about the Nestle scandal that killed thousands of babies because they convinced third world moms baby formula was better than their breast milk? My mom even believed that. Hi friends, I am so thrilled if you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be, and I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video. Now, Nestle, they had this extra baby formula that developed countries didn't run it by, so they shifted to third world countries. And unfortunately, those moms, they started to dilute the formula. This caused thousands of children not to make it. Now, it's been several decades since that scandal. Yet, our supermarket shelves are lined with ultra-processed foods, diluted in traditional value, just like adding water to baby formula. Yet, many want to believe we are eating total nutrition. Many have asked themselves the question, how long can one survive on total cereal, including me? Intuitively, we all know there's just something wrong when complete nutrition is in a box or in a powder. But yet, people still seem to eat that stuff and think it's healthy. Now, I took a test that we can reconstitute protein powder with a bunch of vitamins and minerals and give it to people, and they can live a long time. Those are called tube feeds. They're given to people who can't swallow, who can't eat. They need a tube to get the feeding, and obviously the feed has to be liquid, smooth, and not precipitate. People can survive on just drinking nutritional shakes for several years, but would you consider that healthy? Health is when you can do what you normally do on a daily basis. I would argue that people on tube feeds can't normally do things when you can't chew and swallow. That's not normal. That's a big chunk of your health, and that is our modern day dilemma. We have viewed health with living with chronic sickness as if it's normal. Chronic sickness isn't survival mode. And when you live in survival mode, your body switches off genes necessary for longevity that prevents cancers. Many Americans are in survival mode because they have subclinical nutrient deficiencies that they aren't even aware of. Do you want to get out of that rat race? Last night, I went to a women's Bible study, and I was so happy that they had berries. It had strawberries and blackberries. It was a part of the refreshment stand. But then I saw cans of whipping cream, right, next to the berries. And of course, it makes sense. A lot of people eat whipping cream with berries. And I watched how much whipping cream people would squirt out. They would bring in bowls, sometimes filled with whipping cream. I didn't see any berries. And some people would put just a little bit on the side. Whipping cream is full of saturated fat that about nullifies its benefits of berries, depending on how much whipping cream you're eating. It's just as important to avoid bad stuff as it is to fill your bucket with good stuff. And to be clear, not all fat is bad. In fact, there is one essential fat that people, if they could whip it and eat it as cream and make it taste good, that would change our blood levels as a nation and reduce mortality. This essential fat is called omega-3 fatty acids, and the body converts it to DHA and EPA, which our country has an absolute deficit. Low EPA and DHA is associated with increased mortality. Now, if we can raise our levels by 1%, then we can actually decrease 20% of all-cause mortality. But the problem is, it's not going to taste good. It's a bit fishy. So you can't quite put it in whipping cream. These essential fats that are in marine life, important for your brain, for your eye structure. Low blood levels of DHA and EPA are associated with a faster rate of telomere shortening. Now, telomeres, as a reminder, are the caps of your DNA that prevent your DNA from getting all tangled together. Now, every time it divides, it separates. So it has the caps to keep it all nice. It's like your shoelaces, that plastic coating that holds your shoelaces together. It prevents your shoelaces from getting all frizzled. Now, there comes a point where it'll get so completely frizzled that your shoelaces will be destroyed and you won't effectively be able to use them anymore. The same thing will happen if you have no more telomeres. Your DNA will be gone. Now, if you are a vegan, remember that there are supplements with algae oil that have EPA. That's actually who makes it, algae. And then the marine life eats algae to collect DHA and EPA in them. If you want to eat animals, there are certain fish in marine life that will have more DHA and EPA. It's worth knowing this list, but if you want to keep it plant-based, then focus on seasoned nuts that are a high source of alpha and little net and gas, which your body can convert to a certain degree to EPA and DHA. But if you're going to do this, it's important to keep your omega-6 oils low because they compete for the same enzymes and they will decrease your omega-3 levels when your omega-6 ratios are too high. Have you ever visited an emergency room? Emergency room doctors triage your patients. This means that they treat the sickest first, and their mindset is to address urgent needs. After all, it's useless to ask a seriously injured person if he has high cholesterol and about the level of his blood sugars. You have to heal his wounds, and then we can talk about everything else. That was actually a quote by the late Pope Francis, who passed out the age of 88, still sharp, despite having lived with only one lung for most of his life. And by the way, he was appointed Pope at the age of 76, which was the life expectancy in the U.S. in 2021. He went on to serve 12 years as head of the largest Christian church in the world. Pope Francis, really any pope, has the largest microphone of any single Christian person in this entire world. You can debate about the checkered history of organized religion, but I think it's important to separate the person from the institution. I think there's no argument that Pope Francis was a very spiritual person with great faith. You don't have to agree with all his beliefs, but I believe that his faith helped him last a decade longer than the average person living in the U.S. The benefit of faith isn't just reserved for folks. In fact, studies have linked people with faith to longer longevity, and better health. And many of you know that I graduated from Loma Linda University School of Medicine. And when I first got accepted, I didn't realize that Loma Linda was a unique Christian community that was home to Seventh-day Adventist Christians. That was and continues to be a longevity culture in the United States, living 10 years longer than the average fellow American living in the U.S. A strong part of their Christian faith is to believe that their physical health is critical to their spiritual health. Cities on Amethyst started in 1958 in the U.S. as well as in Canada. Their avenues are all over the world. In 2014, they reviewed some data and observed that those who were strictly vegan had the lowest cancer rates. Now, today, lots of people think dementia and cancer are a normal part of aging. Well, I think Pope Francis proved that had to be false. Pope Francis focused on spiritual healing. I think if you are a person of faith, then it comes to high cholesterol and high blood sugars. We can debate about the absolute numbers, but remember, your blood needs to flow. Any kind of solids that plug up the system will prevent blood flow. It's simply a matter of basic physics, and the viscosity of liquid, honey, and fat just don't flow as fast as water. So the closer your blood is to honey or oil, the slower your blood will flow due to higher viscosity. In a normal circumstance where the system isn't hardened through years of inflammation, it probably doesn't matter. Temporary high numbers that are short-lived are unlikely to cause noticeable symptoms. The only reason it's temporary is either you stop eating or take medicine to get it low. But if you can imagine, if your meals are always full of saturated fat and sugar, then cholesterol and sugar will stay persistently high after every meal and snack. This will increase the viscosity, triggering a cascade of inflammation in your blood vessels that can damage your blood vessels, resembling those pipes. Then that viscosity probably does make a difference. And when you have decreased blood flow, that's not a longevity factor. Your body is its own emergency room, helping you triage life-saving metabolic processes. When you don't have the right ingredients, you will put off those critical investments in infrastructure to secure your now. So if you give your future, the whole concept of longevity will be gone. It's like borrowing from your 401k to pay for what you need. You won't have your retirement account when it's time to retire. And if you want to build a bank of health, then you need to be eating orgofeoni. If you eat mushrooms, you're eating orgofeoni, which are not made by any plants or animals. Now, you may not have heard of this molecule before, but it's thought to be a vitamin because it's present in almost every single human cell. It's a strong antioxidant to help prevent many chronic human diseases. It's thought to specifically protect and judicious. You opt in one protein appears also to be needed to take up orgofeoni in cells. And if you're missing this protein, it results in oxidative damage to proteins, lipids, and DNA, and higher cell mortality, inflammatory bowel disease, a condition called Crohn's, has been shown to have dysfunctional ergo-finding transporter genes. That edible fungi differ in the amount of ergo-finding. Bacteria can also take up ergo-finding, and certain plants can concentrate higher levels, such as red kidney beans, turtle beans, and operan, which have greater than 3 milligrams per kilogram. However, the right mushrooms can have over 100 milligrams per kilogram of ergo-finding, such as oyster and king bullet mushrooms. Unfortunately, the common button mushroom doesn't have much ergo-finding. I'm a big fan of shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake also contains lentins, a sugar molecule or polysaccharide called 1,3-beta-glucan that boosts the immune system and enhances T cell activity to indirectly kill cancer cells. And this is the power of eating whole foods, because they more than just one single ingredient, like an A supplement In 1969, a Japanese scientist, Shohara Akira, isolated linten from shiitake mushrooms, which he saw enhanced function and had activity against gastric cancer cells. Linten does boost macrophage and natural killer cell activity, directly targeting cancer cells in animal studies. In clinical trials, lintenin is considered a biological modifier and enhances the activity of cancer chemotherapy drugs, such as gemcitabine, paclitaxel, docetaxel, cisplatin, and monoclonal antibodies. It has also improved the survival rates in patients with esophageal cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, and advanced cancer. Now, by itself, it's not proven to be as effective. Most of the positive effects of lintenin initially appeared in animal studies, such as with mice, where it showed a reduction in tumor size by 33%. So the Japanese physicians, under compassionate use, try it in people, and they infuse lintenin in patients with advanced lung cancer, but it only increased her lifespan by about a month. Lintenin is only available for clinical use intravenously outside of the United States. However, if you decide to eat shiitake mushrooms, one out of caution, cook them thoroughly, or you may break out with this shiitake rash in about 10 days. Another molecule, not on the essential list, is pyrroloquinoline, kinome, which is also made by bacteria, not any animals or plants. And plants collect this from the soil, which then people can eat. Through some vegetables, collect 5 to 10 times more than humans. This is a powerful antioxidant, more stable than vitamin C, and can work 2,000 times more than vitamin C. Vitamin C plays a critical role in protecting your nervous system and memory and lowering inflammation. So it's important to get enough vitamin C throughout the day. However, if you get quinolone, you get an even stronger neuroprotectant that can help your mitochondria work more efficiently. This is right. Relying on supplements instead of eating whole fruits and vegetables is dangerous. You'll be missing out on multiple key compounds that people haven't bottled yet. Many of these compounds, they serve as vitamins, but they're not recognized as vitamins, even though they're essential to your health. Now, have you heard of eating your rainbow? Now, plants come in a variety of gorgeous, vibrant colors because many are made out of unique pigments, such as crinoids. And you may have heard of beta-carotene. Well, crinoids are more than just beta-carotene. And so when you eat plants, you have access to over 600 crinoids that are made by plants. These crinoids are strong antioxidant pigments that you see as yellow, orange, and red. Now, have you ever gone into the doctor's office and had your eye looked at through an ophthalmoscope? What are they looking for? Sometimes they're looking for your red reflex. When your eye doctor looks into your eye, they can see a window to your health. The first thing that they see is a reddish, gorgeous layer of tissue called the retina. The retina contains your photopigments, which allow you to see. It enables you to process light. Your eyes are literally an extension of your nervous system and your brain. Hence, infections in your eye tissue are super dangerous because they can directly communicate with your brain. If you stare at the light, we can actually see a darker spot called the macula. That's where you focus your eyesight. When the macula gets sick, you will lose your vision. Your eye collects these plant pigments, which is why your doctor can see color in your eyes. They're looking for that color to assess the health of your retina. There are 6 plant crinoids found in your blood and brain tissue, including luteins, xanthine, lycopene, alpha and beta-carotene, and beta-crypto and xanthine. These vitamin-like nutrients help to optimize your health. A low intake of crinoids and other nutrients is associated with blindness from conditions like macular degeneration, as well as bad memory or cognitive decline. It increases your risk of cancers, metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, hearing loss, and all-cause mortality. Basically, you get sicker, faster, suffer longer, and shorten your lifespan if you aren't eating your colors. in whole foods. Now, RFK has asked companies to phase out a bunch of artificial colors that have existed in our food supplies since the late 19th century. It's actually started long before the Federal Drug Agency or the MTA was a thing. People still debate whether or not these colors are really that bad, but there's no argument that these colors do not belong in the human body. And potentially, they serve no biological purpose. They don't even protect us from the sun like some do. But the other problem is that you're choosing foods that need to be all dolled up and colored to make them appealing to you. You're actually choosing the wrong stuff to eat. I think we have overcomplicated the human diet with a bunch of chemicals that serve no purpose, and then we're sprinkling it with some essential vitamins. We're literally taking our eyes off the ball. These essential nutrients need to be eaten in real whole food. You can't rely on processed food companies to give you total nutrition. It does not exist. In fact, when you eat food, some of these molecules your own microbiome has to make, which is 7D, as in guanine, made by bacteria. And when you eat tomatoes, wheat, or drink coconut water, that plant has a little whining because these plants absorb it from their soil microbiome. And your gut microbiome needs to make it, and then it gets into crinosin and it interacts with your tRNA structures. You literally have a protein designed to specifically transport. Quinine deficiency results in a reduced level of the cofactor tetrahydrobiopropterin pH4, which is required to convert phenylene to tyrosine, tryptophan's serotonin, tyrosine to dopa, which then makes essential neurotransmitters like epinephrine and norepinephrine. Oh, and it's also responsible to convert originating to nitric oxide into oxides lipids. And when I was at Fellow, I had the privilege of interacting with one of the greatest microbiologists and infectious disease physicians, Sidney Feingold. And when I met him, he was over the 80. He would play tennis every single day. He lived until he was 97. Now, he was telling me at the time who was setting the gut microbiome, looking for neurobes that could be linked to autism. And I thought, that's very interesting. Apparently, he had lots of parents writing to him, telling him that they noticed changes in their children after they got a course of antibiotics. So changes in your gut microbiome can directly lead to changes in your nervous system because your vagus nerve, the largest peripheral nerve, directly communicates with your brain. And this is why when your gut doesn't feel well, you really can't think straight, right? We're just beginning to scratch the surface of the power of the gut microbiome. But just imagine how many biological processes that you can affect. When we talk about serotonin, nitric oxide, transmitters, these are all vital to healthy longevity. And it's not just quinine, but quinine supports protein synthesis that helps your TNA with serotonin transport amino acids and ribosomes to make you more proteins. So we have to have a healthy gut microbiome. So how do you get it to make more? And I'm sure you want a specific probiotic. At this time, it doesn't exist. However, that's where fiber comes in, but it's not sound, and fiber in a supplement bottle. I was recently watching a super popular physician YouTuber who reaches probably billions of people, and he was commenting on how he was going to try to lose weight and start adding psyllium husk to his diet. What a lost opportunity to encourage people to eat real food. And then why would you spend any money on a bottle of fiber when there is plenty of fiber if you eat the thousands of options that are given to us in whole plant food? And if you did that, you can't help but lose weight and get your metabolism healthier so that you can actually preserve longevity because you'd be boosting your microbiome. We have a nation of fiber deficient diets. 9 out of 10 people don't eat enough high fiber foods in their diet. Your Metamucil does not make that up. And it's not even a high bar. They ask us to eat about 30 grams of fiber a day. And that's purely anything. Salad, by the way, is not high in fiber unless you're eating as much as an elephant. So your little bowl of side salad is absolutely inadequate to meet your daily dietary fiber needs. But if you included some fiber-rich foods with every meal from multiple different sources, from fruits, from beans, from whole grains, you will very quickly add up to over 30 grams a day. Sprinkle some seeds for your snacks. You just can't help but build up more fiber. It's hard to eat a fiberless diet if you're eating whole food plants. But the point of eating fiber is not to collect fiber by itself. It's to collect the nutrients that are attached to the fiber. That's also on your essential vitamin and mineral list. High fiber whole foods will help you check your bucket list of essentials and promote the world of beneficial bacteria, not just by eating soluble fiber. The fiber molecules are trapped with other beneficial molecules that aren't in your essential list by polyphenols and anthocyanins that interact with your gut-like or biome to suppress pathogenic microbes and promote beneficial microbes that propel your health through mechanisms like quinine biosynthesis and short-chain fatty acid synthesis. Conversely, diets low in fiber and high in animal products and ultra-processed foods that reduce microbial diversity, promote pathogenic bacteria, and reduce quine-producing bacteria. Hence, the standard American diet focused on ultra-processed foods or high in animal protein just does not cut it for longevity. We didn't used to eat like this, folks. People used to eat animal protein with whole fruit vegetables. But when you're choosing your vegetables, not all vegetables are the same. If you want to learn the most powerful vegetables, watch our next video.